I got in with NASA at the beginning of the Gemini program. Mercury had finished. We had learned how to put people into space on top of rockets, and now we were getting on with the project that will eventually get us to the moon. And back then, we did not know much about the effects of space on the body. So the astronauts, the guys, and they were all guys back then, were covered with medical sensors. And my first job as I got on board with NASA was to be the biomedical systems engineer responsible for that equipment. It was a great way to get in on the ground floor of the human spaceflight program, because you got to meet all the astronauts. In fact, you spent a lot of time with them. You know, they're standing in front of you naked, getting their bodies shaved, and the technicians are putting the sensors on. By the way, the astronauts didn't like this at all. Interestingly, like a typical test pilot, you'd get close to T0 and we're looking at their heart rate and respiration rate and this sort of thing. And you'd see their heartbeat would go up from 70 to 80, 90, maybe a little higher. Of course, mine was probably running about 150, because the last thing you want to do as an engineer in launch count responsible for a system is press your no-go button because something's wrong with your system. But they were cool. They were cool customers. The only time I saw their heart rates go really high was the Gemini 6 first launch attempt, when the engines on the Titan rocket shut down about a second before liftoff was supposed to occur. And I commented, I said, well, gee, Doc, does this mean they're scared? You know, what's going on here? He said, oh, and I remember him looking at me and said, oh no, Bob, they're mad. You know these guys, okay? They've been training for weeks, months, or whatever. They've been sitting in the spacecraft for hours. They're uncomfortable. And the kind of problem that causes an engine shutdown is going to take some time to fix. It's kicking into them that they're not going to launch today. It may be weeks before they launch again. And they're internally upset about this, naturally so. And this is what happens to your heart rate when you get mad. I'm Bob Sieck, and that's one of my previously untold stories from the Rocket Ranch.